So the next one, somebody was asking about moving from part-time to full-time. How long did it take? Or what are some of the, I wanted to add, what are some of the thought processes behind why a person would go from a part-time position to a full-time position? Because sometimes that thought process is way more valuable than the amount of time from point A to point B, because there's a lot of things involved with that. So, Cubby, you are a full-time DJ. And I was a full-time, that's all we did, until we started the Disc Jockey News, and then the Disc Jockey News became this entity. So I have been there on both sides of it. And Dan, you are a part-time DJ, and you also are a teacher. So just to get that out there for those of you out there. Cubby, we'll start with you. Let's handle that first one. How, from the time you started as a DJ to the time you were full-time, roughly how long did that take?
It took, I had a wife and 4 kids, so I needed double income provider. Been in the industry for a lot of years. I've worked with different publications and associations and software programmers within the DJ industry for a lot of years. So I had a lot of freedom. But when it came to me that I was making more money as my part-time job than I was on my full-time job, and I realized that I could do this full time and have more freedom with my family during the week. Yes, I was working every Saturday. Then it made sense for me that when I started looking at the numbers, what I was making on my DJ and what I was working on my yearly salary, when that became greater was the time for me to move on. When it became a grind for me to go to my daytime weekly job, full-time job, where I enjoyed my passion was DJing. So then I started adjusting my company. Within my contract, I have a 90-day payment and a 30-day payment. I have a deposit, a 90-day payment, and a 30-day payment. Being here in the Midwest, they don't do a lot of weddings in February. So what that payment program does for me is it gives me income all year round so I can pay my bills. So I've always got checks coming in, whether it's a 90-day payment, whether it's a 30-day payment, or it was a deposit in the wintertime when I'm doing the Bravo shows.
And those are changes you made once you were going full time, because now you had that. You're getting kind of ahead of us here a little bit. I want to read.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do that all the time.
Yeah, no, you're good. So from basically, how was it 2 years from that you basically made from your starting to the point where you were, or how long was it when you were where you became the full time DJ guy?
After I got divorced. No. And my ex-wife stopped spending my money. I had a wife and 4 kids and a wife that did work. So I was was spending a lot of money. She doesn't watch the show, but when we divorced and I got her away from spending so much money, I was able to better financial control of my life. I encourage you to pay off bills and do the Dave Ramsey. And there's even now religious people that go to the Dave Ramsey financial peace seminars. So yeah, you've got to be financially, fiscally responsible, and then that growth will happen. But I would have to say, I enjoyed working in the industry too, with all the associations I work for, the software companies. I enjoyed that, and I've been amazing bosses that I've worked for, and I hated leaving. They were the best, and they're still great friends today. I would have to say I could have done it at 3 to 5 years, but I love my position within the industry, so I maybe worked a little bit longer.
Sure.
But once again, when it became that grind to where I got to get up and it wasn't, my daytime job wasn't any fun, then I looked forward to my passion of DJing and growing my own business. And that's when I started buying more gear, hiring more DJs, and then it grew that way. So always keep a lookout for talent, people with great personalities. My trivia hosting, we have trivia that we do locally is a breeding ground for my hosts. Once they can get comfortable on the mic and can build their nights into great nights, I'm like, hey, you ever thought I'd do about DJing? And I've got 2 DJs. That's all they do is full-time DJ. They don't even have other jobs that were able to keep them busy throughout the whole year, and they can survive. So yeah, I guess it's fiscally responsible, and then making when you just can't do that grind any longer. And I know it's a big step. It's a scary step.
It definitely can be. Dan, now we've talked about this over a number of years, sometimes on shows, sometimes not. You aren't a full-time DJ, but you've toyed around with it on numerous occasions. What have been some of the things, and Cubby's already talked about some of the concerns a person has going to making that jump. What were some of your personal concerns that made it to the point where you're like, hey, I'm just going to keep this and go that route?
So it was tough for me. So very much like Cubby was saying, like that daily grind was really starting to get on me. And that was one time I think I remember I called you and we just talked, I don't know, like an hour, talking about different scenarios, and I just kind of wanted to get somebody else's input, because where I was at, I didn't know of anybody that did this full time, unless they were like a radio DJ and then they did the wedding DJ. That was about the extent of being like a full-time DJ in my area. And so it's very difficult. And so I started like considering it. But one of the things that I kind of got held up with was, I was making enough money at the day job and I was making a decent living at the DJ job, and I was kind of getting used to that new lifestyle. And so what ended up creating a problem was, if I took away the day job, was that going to free me up enough time to then take and replace that energy with the DJ? Even if it took a year or two, could I replace that income that I was losing with the DJ? And where I was at locally, no, not unless I wanted to get into something like with Cubby with the trivia nights, but then that meant I was being away from my family more, and I wasn't willing to sacrifice that. If I picked up if I could do Fridays and Saturday weddings or Saturday, Sunday weddings, and I could be like, okay, that's going to supplement the income, and now I'm going to be okay, then I would feel fine with it. But I wasn't getting that. In our area, if it's not a Saturday wedding, it just doesn't happen, right? With a couple rare exceptions. So I wasn't going to be able to take care of the money. And then there's the insurance side of it, right? Like, if you have a full-time job, most likely you have insurance. It might not be the best insurance, but it's still better than probably what you would have to be able to go out and get on your own. Now, some of our associations have been able to lobby, and so there's some help there, but it's still not, maybe necessarily, and it definitely was not as great as what I was dealing with.
Yeah.
So those were some of the things that kind of weighed in with me. And then, also to add to it, my wife works Monday through Friday. My boys are in school Monday through Friday. And if I, take away and I'm gone Saturdays and Sundays for events, now I'm really only seeing them in a much smaller time period. And I was already losing out on some of those moments with my kids. So one other thing that really kind of pulled me back into to stay part-time realm was, if I know that, Brendan is going to have this event on a Saturday in July, I can go, I don't have to take an event on a Saturday in July. My wife's birthday happens to be a Saturday in October a lot of times. So that weekend, I make sure that I don't take an event on that Saturday. And some teachers are like, I don't care whose birthday it is. I'm
making money. Yeah,
exactly. But the part-time aspect affords me that flexibility to be able to say, I can pick and choose really what I want. And if I don't feel solid about an event, I can say no. And if I don't work that weekend, yeah, it kind of sucks because I lost out some money. But in the same respect, like, I'm not needing all that to survive on. It becomes that extra money that I can use.
So
that was the main gist.
No, that was good. That was very good. Thank you. From my personal side of it, started the official company we filed in 1990. That's when the name was done with the state. By 1993, we had gone full time. That included during the time I was teaching, as far as I was teaching the 91 and 92 type of thing. And then in 93, fall of 93, we went full time, multiple systems throughout the years. That was my only income really until probably 2004, the Disc Jockey News started. And the Disc Jockey News hasn't made much of any income since then, so that didn't count. But anyway, that became my next project that I got into. Interestingly enough, one of the reasons why that having the Disc Jockey News worked is kind of like what you were saying, Dan, where when your spouse has got a day job and they're doing their thing, and could be your off time. Well, back in the 90s, Lori was DJing with me and doing her thing, and then she was working for a different business at that time. And she had vacation days. So in the summertime, we could take off Monday through Thursday or Monday, whatever it was. We could take off early in the week, which worked for my DJ. It worked for her where she was working, and we could go camping during the week. That was fabulous, and it worked wonderfully for us at that time. Well, once Lori went and she started her own newspaper, that meant that her work week was, Monday through Thursday, that she basically had a full day and was in the office or doing delivery, whatever. So that meant that either I have to try to find something that kind of fits that schedule, so then I can have some of those weekends off type of thing. And that really, the disc jockey news kind of fit into that category. Then I could have my work week kind of coincide with hers. Looking back at it, there's many things, though, as a full-time I miss, and specifically that ability to basically say, hey, let's just go. If we had our same working conditions we had back in the 90s, we could take a week off and we could go vacation. We could do like Cubby does and goes and travels to every, Cubs field around the country and play baseball or, run the bases. I don't know what they do at those things. Yeah, hit slap shots. I don't know. That part I miss. I miss that ability to go and be at a campground in northern Minnesota on a Tuesday when no one else is there. We got the whole place to ourselves. That doesn't happen anymore. And I do miss that capability. But overall, it is kind of nice not to also have to, it's kind of like, as you said, Dan, is you don't have to take everything that comes across your desk. You can say, I want to take that weekend off and I want to be, the 4th of July weekend. I don't need to have three $300 shows just because that's the only thing I can book that weekend. I'll just take that off and we'll work some other day.
I got to admit, though, I thought when I went full time, I'd have a lot of time to myself, like during the week. And I do, but there's still a lot of, I'm still grinding Monday through Friday and working just as hard. I'll probably harder. I don't know. It's just doing, but I do have freedom that if I didn't want to, I did, I have nobody to answer to. But it will hit me 6 months later. Doesn't hit me immediately, but it'll hit me 6 to 9 months later when I didn't book an event or did, wasn't around. I don't know. I do. Yeah. It's just because you're a full-time DJ does not mean you've got you can, but it may not affect you the next week, but it could affect you in 6 to 9 months. So it's still a constant grind to continue to drive.
Guys, I want to get one more question in before we wrap up. So let's get our last one next.